Hey guys, if you're brand new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and definitely ring a ding ding that bell notification button. It helps the channel grow and it helps me bring you guys a lot more. I'm back.
Will Goku and Trunks' Super Saiyan power be enough this time? Gohan's in danger until Team Dragon Ball Z joins the fight. But wait, it's Evil Frieza! The Earth is still in trouble.
Yeah, this is a definite purchase. This will go on the wall of fame. I can see this is the Goku the Dragon Ball Z fans have been waiting for. This film is phenomenal. Every line is perfect. No detail has been spared.
Holy cow, as of 2021, it's been over 10 years that this line has been out. And oh, what heights it has soared to. It's pretty incredible, the vast array of figures that have been released in the line to date. And take this in. Since the release of part 2 in this series, there's been like over 60 figures released in the line. Like seriously, we are officially over 100 figures deep now, with fun fact, Hit being the 100th figure in the line. I really feel so sorry for anyone in their wallet who's just discovering these figures now. And you know, perhaps the most noticeable change here is that we're finally at the point where we're starting to flesh out other sagas and side characters. Like we've got the whole damn Ginyu Force now. Not only that, but we've absolutely broken the mold in terms of the size of some figures. Move over SH Monster Arts, Shenron and Great Ape Vegeta are coming for you. But let's not jump too far ahead. Instead, let's pick off where we left off in part 2, just after the release of Goku Black. So the summer of 2018 saw the continued trend of releasing exclusive color figures into the line. Of course, figures that have been released in the past. Most notably was the inclusion of Vegito, who technically sported a whole new transformation using just a change in color scheme. And by that of course I mean Super Saiyan Blue. This is the first time we'd seen this done, and I'm not counting the use of adult Gohan's 1.0 body with a Super Saiyan head on it instead of the Ultimate Form's black hair. This Vegito Blue did not feature anything new other than that blue dew, but despite this, it did offer more of a, for lack of a better term, premium paint job on the figure itself. It had all the same capabilities as the original Vegito figure, but it was one of the first forays into the Dragon Ball Super side of things for an event exclusive. And as with most other event exclusive figures, its in-hand feel offered that much more in terms of quality and having an overall more solid feel to the figure. Now the other two releases being Broly and Cell featured different color schemes than their predecessors as well. This event exclusive Broly was the exact same as the other two releases of the character, however it featured a lot less saturation in its colors with a less intense green than the second release of Broly. Also, there was just noticeably more pink hues scattered on the figure than its previous versions. The differences are just subtle enough for you to be able to distinguish them when they're all standing side by side. And really, what it's supposed to convey is just the different tones of Broly every time he's on screen in the first Broly movie. And now that brings us to the final exclusive release of 2018, and that would be none other than Cell. This time featuring his manga color scheme. Overall, it was just a much sharper looking figure whose color palette offered collectors that much more of a contrast, as well as for manga fans to cop a more accurate look for Cell. As with Broly, this would be the third opportunity collectors would have to grab perfect Cell. After the hype of SDC and other events faded away, Tamashii continued along with their regular releases for 2018, in which we saw the release of a couple of figures which were highly anticipated. Now whether or not they met expectations, well, that's another story. After the season of event exclusives, we resumed with the arrival of another Frieza release. This offered collectors who missed out on the first opportunity to grab Final Form Frieza a chance at redemption, albeit with a few differences of course. The first is that this Frieza did not come with a rock base, which to this day is fairly unique among accessories that figures in this line come with. Second, this Frieza actually added in a halo and of course the port for said halo on Frieza's head, since of course it represents his return to the world of the living after being sliced and diced up by future Trunks just before the Android saga. Lastly, this Frieza featured more of a true white paint than the bone white with shading we saw with the original. All in all, it was a solid release, in a literal sense as well because it featured much more tighter joints than the original did. Majin Vegeta was quite the contrast to Resurrection F's Frieza release, however. As you can imagine, the hype around this figure was pretty real. Of course, it would be Vegeta's first iteration in his Buu Saga appearance in the line. This figure's foundation was there, solid joints, pretty accurate and superficial appearance. However, it took a deep dive with respect to detailing. This figure exhibited no washing, giving it a very bland, cheaper mass-produced feel and look to it. Combined with the much slimmer profile the figure displayed without Vegeta's usual Saiyan armor, it left something to be desired in terms of a finishing touch to really cement the figure as a great release. Despite this, it did feature much sharper looks than Vegeta exhibited in the past. Now July 2018 also featured the release of another checkpoint, let's call it, figure. That being Goku Saiyan Raised on Earth. This was an excellent addition to the line all around for a number of reasons. It featured the 2.0 body articulation, along with the gi and kanji that Goku had through the Frieza saga and part of the Android saga. It gave collectors another chance to grab base form Goku, and it was offered at a much cheaper price, allowing newcomers a solid point to enter the line and collect the figures, hence the term, a checkpoint figure. Furthermore, if you were lucky enough to attend an event/con, you would have had a chance to grab the power pole meant for this figure as well. Now following the release of SRE Goku, his original master, Master Roshi, would be the next to drop into the line, being the second iteration of a Dragon Ball character to join the line. He featured the same scaling as Kid Goku before him did, and came with a Dragon Ball of his own being the third star. And of course, his trusty cane, glasses, and tortoiseshell. The figure featured a sturdy build with a large capacity to deliver unhindered articulation, and yes, the shell did come off, allowing for even more freedom to express poses through articulation. Hardcore fans of the series were finally able to get their hands on one of the most iconic characters in the Dragon Ball line, who also paired well with most of the other releases in the line that came before him. Now as we rolled along 2018, it continued with a release at almost every month, with the arrival of Majin Buu, Fat Buu more specifically. This marked the first time a villain from the Buu saga was released, and what a large arrival it was, literally. Scale-wise, Fat Buu scaled somewhere in between the two Saiyans Broly and Nappa. He featured a bright pink skin tone and a very screen-accurate coloration on his clothing. He also came with an open chocolate bar for those feeling inclined to recreate poses from his more docile scenes. Another thing that was well done with this figure was it was segmented in the cape, which allowed for more versatility when creating poses. This figure was pretty well received overall and was a welcomed addition to the line since there were no Buu saga villains in the line before his arrival. Now with the last little bit of the fourth quarter of 2018 wrapping up, there were a few more additions to the line, with one of those being Bulma, as she was before her and Vegeta were a thing. She comes decked out with a half pair of pants, goggles, the Dragon Radar, and of course, a 5-star Dragon Ball, giving us a grand total of 3 Dragon Balls to collect all together by the end of 2018. While not as popular as, let's say, Goku Black, this figure did have its own fan following, and it was a welcomed addition to the line just as Fat Buu was before her. Shortly after Bulma's release, it seemed like Figuarts wanted to keep up with the trend releasing figures based on kid characters, as Gotenks was up next. His arrival marked the 5th Buu saga character we'd seen so far, with the likes of Ultimate Gohan, Fat Buu, Majin Vegeta, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and of course, Vegito. And at the very least, Gotenks scaled well when lined up next to those figures. He featured an effect part for the Galactic Donut, and another Kamikaze Ghost effect, which were well made. The largest critique about this figure at the time was there seemed to be a small chance of the figure's joints not being the tightest, as well as the retail price for the figure. When fans think Gotenks, they also think of Super Saiyan 3, which unfortunately did not come with this release. In addition, there was no base form head included, making the figure quite a niche release. As stated, 2018 seemed to fancy kids/offspring for quite a few of its releases, remaining the same for the last release of the year, Future Trunks as seen in Dragon Ball Super. This was a very solid, well-received release, featuring pretty much everything a collector would want in a Trunks release. Base form, Super Saiyan head, sword accessories, especially the huge Spirit Bomb sword, as well as a stand for that sword, and even a Gallic Gun charge effect part. This figure also featured starkly contrast color palettes that differed from the other Trunks figures in the line, as well as his blue hair that he's seen with in Dragon Ball Super. The figure was released to complement Goku Black's release earlier the same year, and was a solid way to cap off all 15 figures we could potentially add to our collections in 2018. Now 2019 was another hot year for SH Figuarts in the Dragon Ball line. Fresh off the scent of the Broly movie that had just come out in 2018, we already knew we were in store for a slew of movie-related figures, namely the new iteration of Broly. In addition, 2019 would grace collectors with the ability to flesh out the Buu saga, some more with the inclusion of Hercule and Great Saiyaman. At the start of the year, it gave birth to another release from the Dragon Ball series, and that is Kid Krillin, the 4th in the line for the Dragon Ball figures. Kid Krillin would of course come with a Dragon Ball being the 6-star ball this time, and he also featured a Kamehameha wave and a little rock in the form of a false Dragon Ball. What's more is Kid Krillin perhaps featured the most dead-on likeness to his anime counterpart, capturing the aesthetic look and feel of the character to a T. It could almost be said that until a 2.0 Krillin is released for the figure, this could be considered the better one than the first Krillin released years ago. And speak of the devil, look who's on his way in 2022. Alright, so after Kid Krillin, we saw the line jump right back into the Buu Saga grind, fleshing out the roster nicely with the addition of 3 more characters, with the first dropping earlier in the year, being Hercule, or Mr. Satan. Now, whether you love him, whether you hate him, Figuarts offered fans a chance to grab a not-so-main character and also offered a much-needed expansion in the line with regard to supporting characters. Displayed on his own or paired with Fat Buu, Hercule was a solid all-around figure representing his anime counterpart. Was it the most popular figure? No, not by any means this year, but it was still popular among the cult collection of fans who supported him. Now, I guess you could say Hercule is definitely more of a sidekick, and who better to have a sidekick than a superhero? Hot off the heels of Hercule, Tamashii released Great Saiyaman, and this figure was amazing. Not only did it release a sort of side arc appearance for Gohan, but they also included a Super Saiyan head for him too, allowing collectors a chance to recreate Gohan as he appeared just before things went from bad to worse at the World Martial Arts Tournament, and then onwards in his fight with Deborah and Fat Buu. The sleek aesthetic of the green and the black apparel in contrast with the sharp jagged edges brought on by Super Saiyan head was amazing. Aside from that, collectors who wanted a more comedic or even toned down look could certainly opt for his appearance as the Great Saiyaman with the helmet and cape. But wow, what a figure! And what a compliment for Tamashii to throw in that Super Saiyan head. Now if we could only get the same treatment for a Super Saiyan 2 Goku head. Alright, and finally, the piece de resistance for the Buu Saga in 2019, we saw the release of Super Buu, or Evil Buu as some call him. From all those times we saw those prototypes at cons and other fused forms of Super Buu, this is the closest we've come in a long time to actually having those in hand. Super Buu featured a screen-accurate likeness to his anime counterpart with a much sleeker frame than Fat Buu. Speaking of Fat Buu, Super Buu came with an additional head for that figure in the form of a chocolate bean head. The expressions he came with via his heads, as well as a stark contrast of the pink skin to white trousers, really made this figure a must-own for any Buu Saga lover or even the completionists. Safe to say, collectors finally had a solid menacing-looking villain from the final saga of Dragon Ball Z to add to their collections, and this figure did not disappoint. So by now, for 2019, it was that time of year again. You guessed it, SDCC/event exclusive season. Now this batch of exclusives had a lot to offer in terms of not only popular characters, but characters who fans may have missed out on the first time around as well. The lineup consisted of Kid Goku in a blue gi, Goku Black, Golden Frieza, and Adult Gohan once again. With the event exclusive Kid Goku, it offered fans a glimpse of a sort of GT representative figure. Aside from the blue gi, not much else was different from its original release, barring a slightly darker skin tone compared to the original releases. Safe to say, however, this Goku was likely not the star of the show at most events this summer. The next couple of figures arguably were the stars, as Goku Black finally would be available again for collectors once more. This Goku Black's most noticeable change from the original was that it featured translucent pink hair over the matted finish sported by the original. What's more is that aside from the darker shaded tones on the outfit, was that he came with a pink energy effect part. If it wasn't the showstopper of 2019's con season, I don't know what was. Though the figure was met with mixed preferences among the community, it was a solid opportunity for fans to get their hands on another iconic villain, or face villainous aftermarket prices for the next few years. Up next, Golden Frieza was another character to re-emerge in the form of a con exclusive for 2019, and offer fans a chance to grab the infamous villain. The largest difference from its original release was that this exclusive featured a much more saturated look, a deeper gold and purple than its predecessor. When it came down to it, you really couldn't go wrong with either release, and fans were left on their own preferences when procuring a Golden Frieza figure for their collection. And the last exclusive of 2019 was Adult Gohan. This time he featured a Super Saiyan head as well as the typical more saturated coloration we see on most exclusive figures. Aside from this, he didn't appear to make as much noise as his 2019 con exclusive counterparts, but at least it was a welcomed option for those who desired this iteration of Gohan in their collection. Now, taking things back to the regular releases for the year is where the loudest commotion was made. With the success of the Broly movie still fresh in the minds of the fandom, Tamashii capitalized off this. The first figure in this dual release was the Hulking, full homage to the Hulk with the color scheme by the way, but the Hulking full-powered Broly. This, unlike the original Broly figure, probably garnered that much more of a singular reaction from fans. Much more fans loved this iteration of Broly than his original concept, and as a result, the pre-orders for this figure, along with Gogeta Blue, were through the roof. Being a little bit more sleek in terms of overall wideness compared to the original release, this Broly towered over most other figures in the line, except for Shenron, and its reception was positive. There was very little to feel dissatisfied about with this figure in hand. Perhaps the only desire left was to include more accessories like his older movie counterpart figures did. And if Broly wasn't enough to cause a mass wave of excitement in the community, Gogeta Blue surely was. Do you know how long fans have been wanting to see this character canonized, let alone in Figuarts form? And now they finally had both. The figure did not disappoint, from its crazy accurate coloration and sculpt to its incredible articulation and inclusion of a base form head. The only thing fans desired at this point was a Super Saiyan head. However, it was a minimal concern at this point. The figure was also so well received that fans heavily speculated an event-exclusive Fusion Reborn coloration at the next con, and the vast majority would have actually been okay with that. That just goes to show you how popular this character is. Safe to say at this point, the age-long debate between Vegito versus Gogeta would have definitely been in Gogeta's favor if it was solely based on Figuarts at this time. And as if Broly and Gogeta weren't enough of a Saiyan action for the fans, Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta 2.0 was released. This Vegeta was very similar to Super Saiyan Vegeta 2.0, albeit with some key differences. First, it featured much darker tones compared to those seen on previous Vegeta figures, reflecting the tones seen in the movie. Second, although the hair was very much alike to the original Super Saiyan Vegeta 2.0, it wasn't as voluminous. It featured a slightly more compact look to it, and what's more is that while it didn't match the previous Super Saiyan Blue colors seen in the line, it did match Gogeta's, which was a nice attention to detail for this figure. Perhaps what fans were also excited about was the inclusion of Vegeta's Super Saiyan God form. Super Saiyan God Vegeta not only made his debut in the Broly movie, but as well with his figure in the line. At this point, fans had the ability to recreate most of Vegeta's forms, with the exception being Super Saiyan Blue Evolution. Now, sort of a segue, if summer 2019 wasn't hot enough with regard to releases, Tamashii did something rarely seen and announced an exclusive version of Dragon Ball Bulma with purple hair and different tones on her clothing, and made her exclusive to the Hong Kong World Tour style. Now, exclusives are usually ones that end up being rare, but this one takes that up to another level. While this wasn't done with more popular characters like Gogeta, it still created a demand for Dragon Ball fans and completionists alike, having to grab this figure. And so, as if maintaining a brief intermission from the main events in the form of a sideshow, Tamashii released Android 21 from Dragon Ball FighterZ. As with their previous habits, it's not new for Tamashii to put brand new characters from media outside the anime into figure form, and they did so yet again. Despite being an android, she featured very similar qualities to that of the Blue figures previously released in the line, with the addition of a tail and white hair. All in all, a very niche-filling figure. Wrapping up 2019, we saw Tamashii continue the trend of movie releases like Super Saiyan Blue Goku 2.0 and an armored or wrath form Broly. Super Saiyan Blue Goku 2.0 continued with the trend we saw with Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta 2.0, in that the clothing featured a darker tone akin with the movie itself compared to the anime tones. And we also saw the hair feature a shade of blue which more closely matched Vegeta and Gogeta's hair. Other than that, this release, despite being relatively vanilla compared to Vegeta's, was a welcomed one and a solid one at that. Now 2019 ended off on a solid note in the form of Wrath Broly, or Armored Broly. This figure filled the gap which fans were speaking on upon the full-powered Broly release earlier in the year. It featured an armor-clad Broly which was never seen before, especially in figure form, and included a Super Saiyan head as well as Broly's form and base form. Tamashii did a great job of attention to detail with the figure, as he was actually shorter than his full-powered form, while still towering over the likes of characters such as Frieza. In addition, the figure was a solid release because despite being armored, it did not hinder the articulation. At long last, the movie collection figures were complete. Well, save for fans who are still holding out for the likes of Paragus, Chile, and Gine, of course. Hey guys, if you're brand new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and definitely ring-a-ding-ding that bell notification button. It helps the channel grow and it helps me bring you guys a lot more.